Differentiating your materials when you're design sketching is important to communicate as clearly as you can to your audience. Today I'm going to sketch two cups that will be, one will be clear and the other one will be opaque. So the first one will be kind of made of glass and the second one will be rendered to be kind of just like the normal stock matte plastic that we've been working with. So first let's start with some cups. I'll draw out these cups. So of course, starting with a narrow or a shallower degree ellipse for the top and then opening up for the bottom. And part of what we're going to do here is really be selective with what we are rendering and the kind of elements with the object and the contents in it or behind it. So in this case, what we're going to do is have a nice strong vignette here. And so this left one is going to be the clear one, and the right one is going to be the opaque one. And since it's clear, we can also show that there is a some sort of content inside, some sort of water, some sort of some sort of drink. And then this one will, obviously you won't be able to see through it because it's completely opaque. So right now it's already looking pretty good to kind of differentiate. Some of the key differences are that you can draw through all of your clear kind of materials, and we can leave those out of our opaque drawing here. You know, especially like the vignette, that's going to make sure to keep it nice and full. So talking about the vignette, actually that's probably the biggest design element on the page to identify that this is also going to be a clear glass here. So what I'm going to do is, like every other vignette, kind of start by outlining the shape that I want to render in, and then very methodically fill in from edge to edge the color. Here I think I'll break it up a bit just to make things a little bit more interesting. Also saves on some marker. Well, that's nice. And what we're going to do in the clear guy is we're going to actually see a couple different shapes kind of show up, because right now we're seeing, one pane of glass in front of the vignette. Here we have two, where it's the front and the back of the cup. Here we even have a third sort of element of distortion, which is the contents of the water, and that water is on the kind of top surface and on the side surface. So what we're going to do here is the glass is distorting or refracting the different light sources or colors. So what we're going to do here is start defining a couple different shapes, being conscious of leaving some white space. And that's just to denote the sort of wall thickness as well on the page. So there we've kind of identified the how the purple's showing up on the different glass clear materials. And here, what we can also do is change the shape of our vignette a little bit, actually, because we have this surface that's also reflective, the water. So we're going to define our line here, and that's going to go down to there. So what we're going to do is actually do a little bit of a cut in here, and that's going to, what this is doing here is we are sort of blending between the vignette and what we're going to color in as the water. And this is going to become our new sort of vignette shape. And keeping sort of white space around some of the lines is just a good kind of rule of thumb here, where you're essentially leaving the highlighted white space as the kind of light that's catching. We're doing this on white paper, so we don't really have the ability to add white pencil or the white kind of ink marker on here. But that's okay, that's not an issue, it's not what we need. We can also just be selective with where we leave the white space. So again, this is kind of this shape that I've drawn up here is the flat of the water content, right? So what we can do here is kind of match some of the lines like we would kind of do a cylinder over here, and make these kind of lines that strike sort of across the surface, so that it looks as if it is nice and sort of flat there. Here what we'll do is just sketch in the nice and light, the kind of color of the content here. And since it's glass, it's clear, it is colorless because you just see through it. But I like to add in some C1 or a C3 actually to give it some gray marker in here too. And this can go across kind of all the shapes that we've been working on. And that can kind of tie in. What you want to kind of be aware of is not making too many complex shapes here. You want to keep everything kind of nice and uniform in a way, expected in another way, you know. So sometimes following the C2 or C1 here, you know, along the bottom or along the sides. Leaving white space is generally the kind of a good sort of practice here. So there you go. That's how we've got, you know, I could probably bump up some of the line weight here. Looking pretty good. And that's the inside edge there. You can even add some kind of dots to sort of show that it's rolling over. You can also add these little kind of textural sort of bubbles. Maybe it's like a fizzy drink or something, but something to kind of tie in, you know, and some sort of pattern is nice if it's on all the different shapes so that it looks a little bit more like it's the same kind of content there. So that's the kind of clear glass there, and I think I'd even probably bump this up a bit. You know, we can always add line weight. So that's nice. There you go. So here, that's it being clear, and you know, you don't have, you know, even the kind of shadow it would cast is, you know, it's very diffused, very muted. You know, it's a totally different story when we're talking about it being opaque, right? Opaque, you know, we are looking at the surface, you know, and we're seeing the entirety of the surface. You know, we're not seeing anything behind it, anything through it. So this is the sort of what we've been drawing, so far in this class. But it's important to note the differences between that kind of opaque and clear. There, very nice. Here we can also bump the line way up. So again, I'm spinning my page so that I get the most accessible angle for my pen and my hand, where I can bump up the line weight in a nice way. And so another thing that we can do here is even go with the, let's say that it has, it's on the kind of darker side here, so I can kind of even go back with the same marker and just even, adding in more kind of the vignette on this side, right by the object is just another way of kind of denoting shadow side. We can add drop shadows here if we want. It would ultimately be kind of confusing to have it here, and is one of those things that I would say it takes away. You are drawing more, but it's taking away from the overall sketch. So I would kind of recommend that, if it's clear, kind of keep it light. But, it's always nice to kind of have some annotations. So here we can kind of just call this clear, and this we can call opaque. And, we could have some sort of annotations. Where we show the drink and the highlight. Noticing again, I can probably even come in with the darker sort of markers here. We have space to kind of drop in more markers, so I think it might even be nice to kind of show sort of the wall thickness and the wall kind of refraction here. And I thought I'd put it in down there because it's got some space, and I think it's just one of those things that, you'll learn to sort of manage the kind of complexity of a drawing. You don't want to overdo it. Definitely take it a step back if you feel like it's too much. But yeah, it's always good to kind of add some annotations. And even some textures and some different patterns to kind of help define what you're drawing and what you're trying to communicate ultimately. Clear stuff is hard because you really see through it, so you're drawing what's in it or what's behind it more often than the actual shape of it, but you can add things to help define the different kind of qualities of your object, whether it's wall thickness, whether it's the contents of it, or the shape of it. So yeah, this is kind of a little overview of the differences between clear and opaque marker rendering.